It'll never be
So,
Frankie
so,
Beverly and Maze.
so was Meek Mill serious when he said that he's waiting to see who can prove that they're loyal fans, that way he can perform Dreams and Nightmares at 10-year anniversary? Is that like a real thing?
I'm not 100% certain, but actually, that sounds really dope.
I don't think my
I'm
Dreams
waiting.
and Nightmares performed in my wedding, fam. That's me.
I mean,
Me personally. No offense to Meek Mill, but I don't think that's. I don't think I want them problems, young boy.
I'm trying. I'm trying to think. Who was it? Who was it that just popped up at They was in the news not too long ago, popping up at a young girl's graduation. Cause I'm trying to
J.
think. Was it
Cole.
Drake? Was it J. Cole? I mean, if he
Yeah.
did that, I wouldn't be surprised. I
All
would
right.
not be surprised. Anything's possible.
All right. I guess. What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Hans Nobi, music producer and co-founder of the music production company Room 380, here with my main man, Urban Ways, project manager and
Yes,
A&R
sir.
of Room 380. And today is episode 38 of the Capitalism and Art podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how we navigate the music industry. So, first of all, before we get into it, man, let's kind of ease our way into it. So I have tequila. I'm going to talk about how I'm going to stop drinking on the podcast because someone told me today that's become my aesthetic, my persona. I'm not an alcoholic. I just like tequila, but
Man, I'm just waiting for that conversation from Drink Champs to be like, "Hey, man, you still in our vibe."
whatever, man. Also, whatever agency Drink Champs works with is fantastic. I'm still trying to figure out how they got that Patti LaBelle interview. I don't know if you saw the recent one. They have they got Black Star and Dave Chappelle, which I thought,
I missed that one. That's
I'm like,
crazy.
that's nuts. That is nuts,
Between
man. So I was like, all right, well,
between
yeah.
them and Kevin Hart, they taking over when it comes to the interview situation in Black culture.
Yeah, it's gonna be I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think that's gonna be the go-to podcast. I have my Conspiracy Hans. I'm very
Yeah,
happy for. Well, no, I
but if you
think
think
the
about it,
agency. I think what we're seeing is Drink Champs. I think that might be it. It appears that that's going to be the podcast push to represent hip hop and urban
Revolt,
culture, which is crazy because if I'm not mistaken, Noriega says he still gets mentorship from Joe Budden. So it's like, seemed like JBP would be, there first. But then again, I'm from the outside looking in,
yeah.
So
But
who knows?
I think it's the energy though. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's the concept is incredible. The fact that you can come on the show, you can drink, so you're gonna get loose enough to get comfortable, especially if there's things you may not necessarily want to talk about. But that
Mm-hmm.
liquor is gonna get you exactly where you need to be to just let that conversation flow. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like at the same time, when you look at like the Joe Budden podcast or even the Kevin Hart podcast, you know what I'm saying? In some instances, they have more of that.
It's not a podcast. Kev Hart says
Well,
he has
excuse
a
me, you're
talk
right.
show.
You're right. That excuse me. That you're right. You're right. He has a talk show. He has more of the Ellen like situation when it comes to our culture.
Yeah.
It was also respectfully. My apologies, Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. But in those situations, it's like you have the more upscale, you know what I'm saying, kind of reserved aspect. You know what's gonna come. It's gonna be incredible. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then at the same time, you have, okay, this joint right here where it can get raw and get gritty, you're gonna hear them stories that you may necessarily not ever hear again. It's kind of like how Clubhouse was when that app first dropped, and you just sitting hearing people in the industry talking. You like, I'd have never been in a conversation in a room with this person based on my current situation had it not been for this app. You know what I'm saying? Now I can go make these connections. But the stories you're hearing is like, bro, they just told you a $5 million story of how this acquisition happened in 5 minutes. You better write that down and put that in a book.
Yeah. It's interesting. But anyway, so today I want to get into a question that artists asked me. Actually, Tynell asked me this question on TikTok. If you guys are not following me on TikTok, follow me on TikTok. I'm posting every day. Sometimes I'm silly, sometimes I'm dropping game. Sometimes I show you guys my process. I actually just did that yesterday. I actually posted about how I come up with melodies for different songs. I actually start on the piano first, and then I go to my DAW because I think LA Reid said that if the melody sounds good by itself, then it shouldn't need drums, right? In the sense of like, if it sounds good by itself, then all you're doing is adding to what's already good.
Are you starting to remind me that that YouTube ad that's out that's running on talking about chord progression, talking about how do
Unison.
these artists and how
Yeah.
do artists make connections? But the stories you're hearing is like, oh, that playback was
Sorry.
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, just talking about how do these top artists make hits? Chord progression. Everything starts with it. I'll be like, oh wow, they selling it. But all
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's funny. I know of the guy who mentored that guy that created his business model, believe it or not.
That's dope.
Yeah, and from what I can see like, he started his own different thing, but yeah, it's been the talk around Unison has been kind of it's been interesting. The reason why I say that is because a lot of producers, so the producer community for the whole is actually a pretty tight-knit community. Speaking of which, shout out to MG and congratulations to MG the Future, just got engaged. Just want to give a shout out to someone that's part of the tribe. But yeah, man, the whole Unison thing it's maybe one day we'll get into, but the whole thing about like it kind of dives into that whole loop conversation to talk about where are people getting involved in this because they really love the music, or are they doing this
Right.
because they see it as an opportunity for commerce? And there's been some talk in regards to Unison kind of sliding over to they're just doing this for commerce. I don't know how true that is. But I've heard certain things and it's interesting. I mean, it's I'm not saying anything that hasn't already been said. I'm not saying that's what him and his team are doing, but I know for a fact that the talk currently is that that's what they're doing. But I don't know. I've never had any problems with them. I don't have anything bad to say about them, but just it's an interesting time in regards to seeing the whole loop maker conversation that's happening currently. But anyway,
I'd say
yeah,
the
go
trick
ahead.
is that situation with technology, as technology is evolving, certain aspects of the industry from a creative standpoint are functionally becoming easier. So it's
Mhm.
easy to slide into that commerce aspect because it's not taking the technical expertise that it used to take. You remember when we used to work at the fruit stand and we used to look at video editing apps, and you remember how they transitioned from 7 to X, and we like, oh, wait a minute, and people flipped out because they like, you took everything out, you gutted what the system was. This isn't even prosumer at this stage.
Right.
And then they started building everything back in, but again, it was over the course of stages. So we had a period where people are switching to Avid, you know what I'm saying, and other video editing software because they're like, I can't do what I used to do with this unless I switch back to 7. And it's
Yeah.
like now using this new Mac is not supported with X, Y, and Z. So it's like, oh, okay. So I mean, we're going into that phase when it comes to production. I mean, songwriting, to be all the way honest, is gonna be next with this whole AI situation. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of it really comes down to how effective can we make one person at doing multiple tasks? And then in that same sense, instead of hiring a team of people, we have this jack of all trades that's highly effective. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because if we think about it, it's always cheaper to hire one person who can do a multitude of tasks and pay them less than it is hiring individual masters to do these specified, they say defined roles at a high excellable level. It's the same thing in any industry. The same thing with like the whole work at home situation. If I can hire this person in a whole different country who can basically speak English and functionally do the job you're doing, but I can pay them less just because of the market status there. Why would I pay you who live here X amount of dollars to find to do the exact same thing when realistically speaking, what you're doing does not require a college degree. It's on job site training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So every industry is going through that situation. It's just a matter of how visible, how viable, and how aware we are of the situation at that time, or if it's going to creep up on us.
It is an interesting time in regards to the AI. And this is um so I've been limiting the amount of time I spend on social media, but I know for a fact that the super conversation right now is AI because all F and Mika thing got it going. But yeah, there is AI generated. There's plugins. I mean, I found one from somebody in India that sent over to me where if I put in certain MIDI notes, I can get a woman's voice to sing certain lyrics for me that I use that almost went on the Drive-Fi 2 beat tape, which is still sitting on my hard drive. But like even for that, like if I want to do a reference, like now, like we could talk about it now, but like now we're working on different placement opportunities, right? I mean, if you guys follow me on Facebook, you saw like, hey, I'm looking for a guitarist and this, that, and third. And speaking of which, all those guitarists, I will reach out to you guys this week. But in regards to reference track, like let's say for instance, like my homegirl Alex out in Brooklyn, if she's not available, if I know how to do vocal production, like, okay, cool, I need you to say this at this time or whatever, this cadence or whatever. We have plugins for that. And kind of like to Wave's point, like they'll just get better. So I know that's like a big thing, but at the end of the day, I'm still underneath the thought that electronic music will get bigger, but the need to see live performances will still, if anything, it's going to drive people to want to see even more live performances, because you can't fake some energy. You just can't fake.
True, but the danger behind that is two things. One, let's say you plug that note in so that person can't actually hit the notation, you're going to deal with a situation with a lot more of the whole, oh, are they really singing on stage? Or is that good old narrative voiceover work in the background? I see they lips moving, but I don't really hear the notes coming.
Yeah, but even in that case,
but you remember
I still want to see
happened
human body
with Giveon. True, but think about the other side of it. What happened with Giveon and the whole the BET Awards situation?
The BET Awards, yeah.
When the mic went out, then all of a sudden you hear the note and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on there? And it's like, apparently the situation was there was an issue with the mic.
Yeah, what it was is they left auto-tune on there. And when I went back, I did tweet about that, and I did go back and look at the video. It does sound like they left the auto-tune on there. It's just like because like there was certain vibrato, you could tell like I don't think he's doing that. So I'm kind of leaning on the side of Giveon. Like I don't think that was him. I think that was the auto-tune. That's why he was looking at the mic kind of crazy.
But that's what I'm saying. You're gonna be running into interesting mechanical issues, because now it's gonna come down to a lot more instances of sound engineering at live sets, trying to figure out, oh, okay, what did they do here? What did they do here? And making sure those things don't happen. So I mean, it's going to be more and more interesting as technology advances. You know what I'm saying? Some things are going to get more simplistic, but again, that's the danger. Anytime technology creates, matter of fact, you ever seen that movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
So you remember in the midst of WALL-E, what the people look like. You know what I'm saying? Sitting here in these giant, basically floating wheelchairs, looking like everyone is in an obese situation. And I'm not knocking anyone who is currently having a weight situation or anything like that. I don't want anybody thinking that we're targeting. But what I'm saying is, as technology overly simplified situations, it put us in a capacity to where doing the work we were previously doing, it was a waste of time. It was pointless. Technology took care of us. On the same situation, you look at concepts like the Matrix, where technology technically took care of us. But in turn, our life force became batteries. I'm not saying in an extreme sense that's the direction we're heading, but on a small scale, when we start looking at what technology is now, the work that we're doing from a creative aspect is about to shift. If we don't get on board and figure out how to be more dynamic with our skill sets with regards to what technology is doing, you're going to get left behind. Like somebody asked me earlier about artists. Well, if they're doing all these digital artists and they're wanting to sign all these digital artists, and what is it for real artists? It's like, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be a lane. It's two different instances.
Yeah, and that's why I hope what I was trying to say translated well in that particular episode was just like there will always be a need for physical artists. Now we did touch base in regards to like I said before, if FME or just any virtual artist, hey, you perform at 7 different places at the same time, sure. But like for instance, like if I go into, let's say I go into Culver City or some bar downtown, I want to see if I want to see like an intimate show, I don't want to see a hologram. I want to feel like the bass player, and I want to feel the drums and like the speakers that have been worn out. They're like 20 years past warranty, and like it's time to change them. Like I need that. That's never going away. So that's what I meant by that is there'll just be a shift in the market.
I ain't gonna lie to you though. This shift is gonna be crazy because it just made me think about I was over in Cincinnati not that long ago, and we went to this spot and we did a VR like a full body VR fit.
Yeah.
When I say that thing gave me a workout, like playing the game, I'm imagining that, and this might be dangerous because somebody might run this idea, but imagining that in a club setting, like how they did with the
Oh yeah,
silent
for
disco
sure.
party.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
somebody adding headphones in a VR set, but it's in a VR/augmented reality, as in the person you're dancing with, you can see them through the headset, so you know who you're dealing with.
Oh
But
yeah,
at the same
that's
time, in the set, you can see an actual concert situation, like a virtual, not effing Mecca, but,
no,
but
no,
you get
no,
what I'm saying.
no. But like P game. So like I think high school's when it came out was the game Second Life. Like I don't know if you remember that, but that's like a real big thing where basically you could they kind of joked about it on The Office where you can create like this virtual reality world where you can have a certain height and certain body build and certain name or whatever, and it was your way to create a virtual. It was like Sims on steroids.
Right.
I believe we're already heading toward that. But
Oh yeah.
even in that regard, right? So let's take it all the way to 100. Even in that regard, let's say I'm a single man and I'm dating a young lady virtually. I think they talked about this on Black Mirror, right?
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Black Mirror.
but like let's say for instance we take it that far. Even in that sense, like even with the sensation and everything else, human beings are not we're naturally want to be close, right? See, that's why
Hmm.
like even for introverts, 90% of the time they don't want to be bothered, they don't want to keep to themselves, but there's a 10% where they want to be around people. So even if you
Right.
had a whole society of people of introverts, that 10%, that 10% is going to be lit. So like that's what I'm saying. Like there may be a shift, but there'll always be a need for human connection. That's never going to go away. The whole reason why we're even trying to go to another planet is to communicate, is to connect with other beings,
Other
whether you
things.
believe in
Right.
other being or not. But like that's the whole. Like I know people say like, oh, we don't need to be on Earth, but I get, conspiracy lines. There's no such thing as overpopulation, especially when I lived in New York for 7 years. And if you drive up an hour and a half, there's nothing but farmland for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. It's like was built
Mhm.
out here, but that's neither here nor there. But like there'll always be some sort of human connection, period.
True story. That actually make me think of the two movies that came out years ago when we were growing up, Judge Dredd and Demolition Man. That are to that exact same extent with regards to emotional connection. You know what I'm saying? With Judge Dredd, I am the law. You know what I'm saying? The partner trying to connect with him in that instance, and the whole backstory behind his brothers and how they were disconnected. You know what I'm saying? The whole test tube baby situation. And then at the same time, you go to Demolition Man, and you basically get put in this futuristic circumstance where the activity of intercourse is basically done through a VR system, like fluid exchange, all that stuff is forbidden. It's like, who allowed this? How
All
did
right.
we get here?
Mm-hmm.
But
All right.
so many different versions.
We'll get into the navigate part, but Milena Sam just asked a pretty good question in regards to, and I kind of touched base on this. So it's funny, it's funny, Milena, you actually asked that. What up, Nadine? But she says, what do you think of the evolution of Afrobeats, particularly in recent years? Some would say capitalism is at its finest, and that there's not a real respect or appreciation for what it represents for Africans, right? I'll read the whole thing and then I'll break it down. And that music labels are just looking to fatten their bottom line. Others would say African music consumers should be happy that
Hmm.
Afrobeats as a genre is getting the recognition. So we kind of touched base on this. So what episode was that? Was that 29 when I said that Afro Nation teamed up with Billboard to create
Sounds about
the
right.
Afro beat? Okay. So Milena, so let me kind of give you a history here. So early in the year, because my WhatsApp went nuts. So Billboard teamed up with Afro Nation. If you guys are not familiar, Afro Nation runs this humongous festival in Portugal with nothing but Afrobeat artists, right? Burna Boys, DeVito, Tim's, Wizkid. I mean, you name it. Then like Chris Brown would pop up out of nowhere. So
Mhm.
the whole purpose of that was to bring recognition of Afrobeats over here to America. That was the talk of it. When I posted about it on Facebook, my WhatsApp blew up with people from Jamaica, people from South Africa, and people from London talking like, oh, this is patronizing, right? So in regards to what she's saying is it that is Billboard looking a way to partner with Afro Nation to bring attention, to monetize that attention and make it their own. Now, I did say this was going to come up, right? Waves, I did say this is going to come up because if you go to Billboard right now, Afro Beats, guess who's in like the top 5? Who was the gentleman I said that everyone we're going to have to collab with to get a top 5 record in the Afro Beats Billboard? Ed Sheeran. If it's Ed Sheeran, guess who's coming next? Dua Lipa. If it's after Dua Lipa, guess who's coming next? Shawn, like we know, we've seen this before, right? So we're already to like, we've seen this before. So there's a duality to this. As someone that is a fan of Afro Beats, as someone that produces Afro Beats artists, I'm gonna play something at the end here for one of the producers that is under the Room 380 imprint. I like the fact that someone out here in LA, all the way to Sioux City, Iowa, to Nacogdoches, Texas, now has access to information to find out who these Afro Beats artists are, right? It's give and take. So I like the fact that someone out in Lufkin or someone out in Jackson, Mississippi can go and say, oh, I like that record Last, right? So I like the fact that it's getting that attention. On the flip side, the question I always ask, and I kind of, not to make it political, but the question I always ask in regards to how people felt about Obama's presidency was, okay, what is the expectations and what are the goals and what are you looking to get out of this? So if it's just exposure, which they did promise, then we now have, like, in New York, everyone listens to Afro beats. Everyone listens to dancehall, everyone listens to reggae, because that's a culture out there, because everyone's and their moms from all over the planet lives in New York.
Right.
Not so much in Atlanta, not so much in Chicago, not so much in well, maybe Montreal, but not so much in like East St. Louis and stuff like that. So you have to have some sort of way that's going to bring that attention center. Right. Because the only way to fuel curiosity is to show people the light. You can't show people the light until you tell them that they are in a cave and then get them to realize that they are in a cave. So in regards to the question that she's asking, yes, it is a way to fatten up their bottom line. However, the flip side of it is that now some girl in Gainesville, Florida is going to grow up and say Tems is her favorite artist. And 10 years now, you're going to start seeing like an Afro beats resurgence in like Florida. You're going to look like, oh, who is that? Oh, they're from Orlando. You're like, there's no way. Right.
But you got to ask yourself this, though. I mean, realistically speaking, what is your expectation for the culture? Because at the end of the day, the culture is who writes the narrative. So if it's a financial opportunity and they're like, okay, the artist from their standpoint, they're trying to live in the concept of capitalism, as in make money for their craft, their art, then they have to find themselves basically, like you said, breaking demographics, opening new business, opening new barriers. So in the interest of a Billboard situation, if we're in a market like America, which is quite literally the most fickle music market in the world, the best way to get them in our market space is to partner them with an already existing artist. And if you're dealing with something like Billboard, the quickest thing they're going to do is run to that pop catalog. Yes, hip hop, don't get me wrong, is the most popular genre per capita in the world. But mind you, when it comes to getting in artists and fast, celebrated, that's going to be a pop situation. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to move faster. Their fans are more active than our fans are. There's a reason why when they start saying, when you look at who buys music, even if you look at the face of the culture, who's buying the music isn't always the face of what it is that you quote unquote represent. So when people start talking about capitalism, who is spending the dollars? That's who's being targeted. That's what they're trying to do with this genre. They're bringing them into the market space, targeting who's going to spend the money, buying the merch, not just streaming the music. They're going to show up at the concerts. It's like when I tell people, when you go to college, especially if you don't go to an HBCU, if you go to a generally mixed college and you go to a party, let's say at one of the traditional frats, not necessarily the ethnocentric frats. You know what I'm saying? When you listen to music there, it's going to be a wide gamut of everything. You go to one of the bras, nine times out of 10, it's going to be hip hop, R&B, depending on your market area. You might get dance hall. Now you might get Afro beats. You know what I'm saying? But they're looking to target the wider gambit. So that's what they're moving.
Right. So here's my counterpoint to that. So everything you're saying makes complete sense. So we don't know exactly like in other words, it's kind of to a point, it's in a sense, the question is it still gatekeeping? Like, hey, you can only come over here if you partner with one of these top 10 pop artists, right?
So no, as in it's not gatekeeping in the sense that they don't technically have to do that. That's the quickest lane to get them in.
So let me, and I
think
think
about the WizKid situation, or I forget what that one. It was a record that was blowing up with not Burna Boy. There was another one that was taken off. Mind you, this is before they partnered with quote unquote pop artists. So I mean, if we're talking about it as a whole culture, then yes, as a whole culture, one could argue there's a potential behavior of gatekeeping, but there are always going to be outlier artists that can break in and tear the walls down.
I'm trying not to be political here. Okay.
Now, I dig where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's like, okay, here's my thing. Because Dre's asking, what is the trade-off? The trade-off is just exposure. Like, like in other words, if you're number one on the Afrobeat Billboard charts today, is it going to drive up sales? Probably not. But is it going to give you exposure? Now, we're talking about 3 or 4 years. Yes. Like there probably be like a big trade-off. But as of right now, no. It's almost in the sense of like, yo, if you give me free beats today, it'll give you exposure tomorrow type deal. That is a trade-off.
Here's what people have to ask themselves, and this is what they really have to understand from a technical aspect. What does your record on Billboard actually do for you outside of the accolades? There's a reason why you have artists like Ryan Leslie who don't care about the charts, but still is considered a multimillionaire and has an incredible fan base, versus artists who focus on the charts. That word exposure is a key aspect. But at the same time, the question becomes, what does the exposure do for you as an artist? It's not necessarily about your music. Your music is the lead point. Your music is incredible by default because you put the time in to make it such. Now it has to lead through that path of exposure to every other sales marker, your merch, shows, you know what I'm saying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's no different than what it was since the 50s on through, even prior to them. It's just the word exposure is more expansive now because of social media. But the behavior has always been the same in that sense.
Well, okay.
Think about it. Album sales. When you had album sales, artists were getting paid statutory rate on a contract, 9 cents, 9 point something cents. I think it's 9.6, but they weren't getting paid a whole dollar. You know what I'm saying? And when you consider it, so if you were getting paid 9 point some change on a dollar on previous contracts prior to social media, and your aspect was selling a record at 99 cents to $1.09 plus tax, the difference between then and now is the fact that you're getting 0.00 whatever, but the exposure behavior is still the same, because either instant you had to build the fan base, you had to build the marker, or you had to pay for it, as in you were paying a marketing firm or some agency to do it for you.
Well, that kind of goes into Melena Sam's question, which is how does it translate into dollars? How does exposure translate to dollars? And it kind of to what Waves is saying is that if exposure you to different markets, so when you come over to the States and you perform, so case in point, just watching a YouTube influencer and WizKid was performing in a venue. There was no more than 500 people in there. And I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. And she was in Toronto. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Let's keep it above. This is the WizKid. If you outside of him, Diamond Platinum, and a couple other people, like this is like the Drake Adele type category where it's just like, fam, that doesn't make any sense. He should be in a much bigger venue. Who dropped the ball in this? And you have to ask yourself, is it the promoter's fault? Is it
or is it the
exposure? And if that's the case, is Billboard sort of the conduit or the medium that kind of brings that together? So that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
And that's the problem. See, the trick about social media, and I blame every person who said this on social media and meant it with their heart. Exposure don't pay my bills, pay me. Shut up. exposure does pay bills. What you have to do is find a balancing point. You have to be paid through exposure as well as get your upfront. It's no different than a person who sells phones at T-Mobile. You get commission as well as you potential hourly. You know what I'm saying? That's the principal balance. So if you get paid at the moment that they're streaming or when they buy a record, the exposure is them now telling other people about your record. Them telling other people means, oh, when I do this show in said marketplace, based on the data that I've been given, I should have, provided the promoter did their job, X, Y, and Z people in here. And when I have all these people in here and I'm now selling merchandise, again, here's my balancing point: physical sales versus digital sales, as in them buying the tickets or buying at the door, physical again, on top of merchandise sales. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you get money both ways. But exposure has been paying people's bills since there was
Since
a thing
forever.
called art.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just people got so wrapped up in social media because social media is free. And at a point, you couldn't monetize social media normally. So that's when they got the wrong concept.
And we know the game that social media is nothing but a vanity number game anyway, because like I said before, I'm not
Think of
trying
Sports Illustrated. They were doing this with magazines before social media came out.
So
it's just a new medium.
It's nothing new, but someone in the chat asked a question: do these artists need a break in the American market to make it? It depends on what you say make it. Last time I checked, Diamond Platnumz owns a house and he owns several houses in Tanzania. I know him and his baby moms own a house in Kenya because, of course, I'm following that now. And there's another artist that so I got caught up in the
you gotta be careful about market area, because what it costs to have an incredible house there versus here, make it could bring a whole different conversation.
This is not with American dollars. It's with their currency.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
There was a young lady who dated Vic Mensa. The only reason why I know this nonsense is there was a reality TV show and all the Africans, they called it the African superstars, even though the majority of them were from South Africa and the ones from Nigeria. By the way, Africa's not it's a continent, it's not a country. I'm not gonna go on that rant anymore, but we need to make sure we I don't know how that happened. And low key, I see them kind of doing the same thing with Australia, but it's well, whatever. Anyway, so
hello, American educational system.
Oh my God. But in regards to that, like these artists are big over in the continent and also in London and the islands, right? But we know, like you said before, the American markets are where everyone's trying to come and go. So in regards to a question that do they need to break in the American? No, because so when I was working at the fruit stand, the guy that manages, I can't remember his name. You guys will know. He's a tall, heavyset guy. He's bald. He's super friendly. He's a manager / producer. I can't remember his name, but I met him. I was like, yo, what's up? And so we shook hands, and most people didn't know who he was. But people who knew was like, yo, my God, can I take a picture? And we had to tell him to fall back. Right. He's super good. So, like, in that sense, what do we mean by make it? If, like I said, if Diamond Platnumz owns a whole bunch of homes and he can walk right here in the middle of LA and only a few Africans and people from the island will recognize him, then it's kind of like that example I gave in regards to Jennifer Love Hewitt. Over here in America, no one is jamming Jennifer Love Hewitt's music, but at that time in early 2000s, if you went over to China, there were billboards up posted everywhere with her album. Nowhere over here in America even listened to her album. So it just depends on what you mean by make it.
That's a Jason Derulo situation.
Right.
You know, well, you don't really hear Jason Derulo in the U.S. market, but when the World Cup was going on, he got one of the biggest records in the world. It's just, see, the people have to understand, America is, and I'll be careful when I say this word, to a capacity when it comes to music, inclusive, but at the same time, it's also very dynamically fast. As in, you may hear something, but you only have a very, very short window to really strike when the iron's hot for something to take off. Otherwise, you back on the burner trying to get to that point again. And it's not impossible to get to the point again. You just got to put work to get in there versus going overseas. I mean, you got artists from the 90s still doing shows to this day because overseas, they're not as fickle when it comes to music. They appreciate music more there.
Perfect example. You got, whenever you guys get a chance, Google this group called Thug Mafia Family. They look exactly how you think. Thug Mafia Family opened up for Lil Flip, who at the time was opening up for RZA, Wu-Tang in China, and these guys blew up. When I tell you, none of these guys had 9 to 5s. All they did was rapping, and it's because they kept getting money from China. They would go over there, do shows for 2 to 3 months, come back to Houston, and they would eat at Benihana all day in their Bentleys. That's all they did. When they walked around, just like, oh, that's somebody OG uncle. They're probably, you know what I'm saying? They probably, you know, they're part of their lifestyle, but you had no idea that if you go over in China, and I saw the videos, and you're just like,
blowing up.
these guys are performing in front of like 65,000. And I know they don't understand what they're saying, because I know like their albums aren't doing that big of numbers over there, but people love to go see them. But over here in the States, in their home city of Houston, nobody knew who they were. That's what I'm saying. Like, it depends on what you mean by make it. Case in point, I'm trying not to use myself as an example, but I only can. Case in point, me, right? The majority of my paid projects come from international projects, right? So in regards to like the plaque, right? Mark One Music, that's way over there in Romania. That's not here. No one knows anything about
he said Romania.
Romania. Like, think about it. I am an A&R for a label out in Romania.
Bro, you gotta ask me what y'all know about Romania outside of that Van Helsing territory.
Right. So like my checks and like my producer fees come from the international things. But like if I walk in the Circle Sound right now, but
people need to hear that.
No, but it's the truth. But like if I work in a Circle Sound, it's only if I drop names, people like, oh, but like no one knows who I am. So it just depends. And I'm here in the States. I'm from Southwest Houston. So it just depends on, you know, so that's what's like in regards to like make it. So in regards to kind of like tie it back into the original question, I think what Afro Nation is doing in regards to partnering with Billboard is great. I don't necessarily take it as patronizing. I think it's going to give those artists over there in Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya a great platform to get exposure over here. Do I see in the next 2 years some artists from Kenya that only has 2 albums go over and do like some sort of remix of I'm a Piano type concert? No, I don't see I'm a Piano festival happening here in the States anytime soon. But in 4 to 5 and 6, we can start having that conversation. So that's what I meant by it. You gotta understand, it's a long play. It's not going to be anything quick, but.
So, I mean, they're even bringing home to things that we deal with every day. If you're a kid in the hood and you're highly intelligent, making good grades, and you have an opportunity to go to a school that's in a more, how do I say this? We'll say in a more invested area, and the demographic isn't necessarily what you look at in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? So in that instance, you're going to go there and you're going to have pain points because who you see every day isn't who you normally are used to seeing every day when you're at your old school. But the simple point of the matter is you have a better opportunity to get the job done and open the gate for other people. That's the exact same thing that's happening with music with regards to culture. We'll say, oh, it's patriarchy, it's this, it's that. But it's like at the end of the day, if our own people can't create the opportunities fast enough, then our people are going to seek other opportunities with other people who are going to want to spend that money. And that's not just our culture, that's just culture in general. Any particular person in any capacity is going to seek the opportunity regardless of who the face of the opportunity is, as long as it's not the devil, unless you into that.
Okay. So with that being said, I hear you. I agree. I think it's a mindset shift. Now, it like I said, it just depends on guys. Like I already Lupe Fiasco is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because he on the Fahrenheit 15 mixtape say I'm trying to go international before I go national. So since 2007, I've been trying to figure out a way to go big in different territories rather than here, because I have some sort of warped mindset that I would never make it here in America. That's why I joke and say stuff like, oh, I wouldn't mind moving, like going to Paris for a year or Berlin or Zurich. Like, that's why I keep saying that. I'm saying it jokingly, but also at the same time, I just recognize that the other opportunities that are there. So kind of wrap this up.
And the thing about it is artists have access to all these same markets. And that's the thing. Like you said, it's changing the mindset. You get on Spotify,
Yeah.
You have this whole platform that gives you all this data for free. You try to market to your homeboy down the street because you think, oh, your homeboy gonna tell everybody about your music, forgetting that you're trying to talk to your homeboy into being a music fan, not just your homeboy. So now you have to understand your homeboy's interests. If your homeboy listen to NBA Youngboy and you out here creating music that sound like Michael Jackson, there's no guarantee that your homeboy is going to be interested in what you're doing. So when he say, that's cool, he's not hating on you. So now you need to go take that data that you're getting from that system known as Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, and actually say, who's interested in my music? In what market areas, what neighborhoods, what demographic, what gender, whatever that circumstance, what age, and actually apply it, because that's what exposure does. Exposure takes that information that they gave you based on what's existing, based on what you were able to feed the system, your own personal metadata, and actually go in directions and say, okay, hey, we know, like for example, Pandora, that this song you just created that's in, let's say, chord progression, whatever, or it's in A minor, whatever, sounds like this record from Nivea. And we know by fact that people in this market area love music by Nivea, so we're going to run your record to
Did
this
you say
market
Nivea?
area. You know, his name popped in my head.
Wow.
Hey, 25 reasons, man. 25 reasons. That's my joint. I ain't going front.
All right, let's wrap this
I
up.
function with it.
This dude just got. We went on a tangent. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Dre. Shout out to Melena. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to John. For joining
it's all
the
good
chat.
info though.
All right. I kind of want to. So I'm glad we went on a tangent because this next part's gonna be kind of short. So I'm gonna go out to the original question, which was someone asked for advice on how to navigate the music industry. This is going to be the unsexiest answer you've ever gotten. It's very simple. Just be professional. That's it. The reason why I say be professional is because if you come in with the mindset of you're ready to work, you're ready to contribute, and you have you're playing the long game, right? I know you hear that all the time. What does that mean? In other words, if you have a 5-year, this is the advice I would give an artist who just started now. Somebody that's like, no, I'm serious about get into the music game. I said, cool. You got 10 years you can spare. And the reason why I say 10 years is not because of, I know for a fact that's how long it'll take. It doesn't. We've seen as far as producers, Sunny Digital was in 2 years. D Hill, rest in peace, got his first placement 18 months in. He literally packed up and went to Atlanta, and 18 months in, he got his first major placement, which was with Drake and Future, right? So don't mess with my man Nivea. What was it? Okay, sure. So
shouts out to that right there.
Yeah, shout out to but in regards to that, the best thing you can do is be professional, man. Because so I'll speak of my experience. When I went to New York, even before I went to New York, when I was trying to get sessions at Baron Studios in Houston or Studio 713 or Wired Road Studios, one of the things that people complimented me on was showing up on time. And doing that, it made me, people knew that they could rely on me. So I started being able to take sessions. But then by the time I was able to take sessions, I had made the transition over to New York. And then when I got to New York, starting out at Terminus, which is now Penthouse Studios, that was the biggest thing, was like, yo, you show up on time. And then when we started working on Trigger Don's album, it was like, yo, he shows up on time. That was one thing that Trigger Don said he loves about working with me. He said, if we say that at the time it's 7 a.m. or 7 p.m., Hans is going to be there. And I would implore you guys to do the same. And the reason why I say that's important is that in this business, there's this mentality of we'll get to it when we get to it, but then if there's no deadline, nothing ever gets done. So for me, one of the reasons why artists love working with me is I'm professional. I say what I'm going to do. I over communicate if need be, sometimes a little too much. I set deadlines, and I try to be very gracious with people in regards to what they have going on. And that's the reason why I've been able to get the job with, to be an A&R with the, remaining label, and get, get the plaque and work with Trigger Down and VP Atlantic Records and get to know this person and that person. There's no trick to it. It's just that I think so. Let me put out this piece of content just so it's out there. I think if you come from the corporate world, the same skills you get from the corporate world, you can apply to music business, right? Even if so, instead of a luncheon, you're at a festival. Instead of a networking party, you're in a strip club, right? You can apply the same principles, which is show up on time, be there, be cordial, keep it business, and when it's time to go, it's time to go, right?
That's
If
true.
you want to get involved in all these other extracurricular activities, you can, but you can still do that and still be professional because you're here for business. And maybe one day I'll get into the whole mindset of like, I'm friends with everyone, but everyone's not my friend. And that's the reason why I'm able to navigate stuff. But that's really what it is. It's the most unsexiest answer ever. Just be a pro about it. And Matthew Weiss has a whole bunch of content on it. Busy Work Beats has a whole bunch of content on it. Austin Hall, I'm just giving shout outs. Austin Hall has a whole bunch of content. Daniel Grimmett has a whole, like, there's people who do this shit, like, I'm talking like for real. They all say the same thing, is if you're professional on time and you communicate, that'll take you with, there's certain there's certain doors where even your talent can't get you in. And that needs to be talked about in regards to the music business. It's like, okay, let me say that, and I don't say this to downplay myself, but I want you guys to understand something. There are people, I have contemporaries, I don't have to drop any names. They know who they are. They're probably watching this replay, watching this now. They know they're more talented than me. That's not even a question. They know that they're more talented than me. The issue is because I carry myself a certain way and I'm always pushing to get better and acquire skills and I'm always networking, I have afforded myself opportunities that they haven't gotten. It's not that I'm just that more talented, even though that can be subjective. It's just that while a lot of them may sit up and just sit resting on the laurels of like, yeah, man, I can do. I'm the one that's still getting up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, going to DMs, talking to people, arranging meetings, arranging flights to go meet people in different cities, to go have different conversations, and helping out outside just making beats. I just got tagged in an artist who he had a hard time getting his music uploaded to United Masters. I made a call. I made some stuff move, and his song is now distributed on all these major platforms. And it's because of a skill set I've been able to acquire that helped them get that. It's not so much that I'm just that much more skilled than every other producer. I just have a skill set that I can utilize to help someone get there, which in turn is going to create a long-lasting relationship. That's going to open doors. It's the same thing with what you're doing now. So even though you may be sitting up, you may be playing the guitar 8 hours. You may be learning how to parallel compress for 8 hours. You may be making beats all different day, and that's totally fine. I'm trying to put in the time as well. However, the difference between me and a lot of my contemporaries is I spend a lot of time learning the business and then going out to implementing. I don't mind this is a tangent. I don't mind failing. Like I don't mind failing at all. One of the most I guess quote unquote embarrassing, it was really embarrassing moments was when I got my ass kicked by Charity Vaughn in a beat battle, Space City beat battle back in Houston. She produced a joint for Sahara Prince for No Dope on Sundays, right? I got my ass kicked. Like I'm talking about, like she mopped the floor with me. But I don't mind that because I know that the long run was, one, I'm going to get better. 2, it's going to give me exposure. And 3, okay, so what she mopped my ass. The rest of my contemporaries have not done a beat battle. So like my mindset here has never been on this thing where it's I've never been on this I guess mindset where it's just like, oh, everything has to be perfect. I'll go out there with, if it's a gun and I only have a knife, I'm still going out there because I have that much confidence in myself. So I guess the other X factor is the confidence part. I'm a Texan, so like the amount of gall and audacity I have will never, like there's no, you can't measure it. Like it's just innate in me, right?
In
So
short, he said, when the pride fall, he still gets back up.
you're right. Like I'm a Texan. I like it just it's just a name. I think LB Johnson said it best. He said, never underestimate the boldness of a Texan. Like they're just like that. That is how we are. So all that being said, guys, if you're listening and ladies, is just be professional, show up on time, do what you say you're gonna do, and just realize you're going to fail up. I don't care who you think is much better than you. I'm pretty sure they failed up. The difference between me
Mhm.
and my contemporaries, the reason why you saw those plaques in my little home studio, the reason why I have a real income from doing this is I don't mind going out and someone saying, you suck, cool. And I go out again. That's it. Like I've taken so many punches in this damn industry and trying to get my name out there and stuff like, and I know I'm gonna take more punches. That's cool. At the end of the day, this only ends when I decide to quit. So
Mhm.
I might as well keep going. Go ahead, wrap this up.
So I'll give it a different path because I'm like me coming from the business. I don't quote unquote have the plaques because I'm not the creative person in that sense. I'm talent, but not that talent. So I always tell people my pathway came from education. It's like
Mm,
I've always been in a situation of where when I did do creative stuff, I did it to help other people. So I learned all these defined skill sets, not personally for me. When I found what it was that I needed to do for me, which was business and understanding education, that's when everything changed. That's when my network changed, my relationships, my opportunities, even in the instance of coming together with Room 380. Like I've known Han since what, 2012, roughly? You know what I'm saying?
2011. Well, when did you come to Houston?
2011? Yeah, that was 2011. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it after
Yeah, that
that.
was 20.
So for those that are part of the R058 gang, yeah, we were your saviors. Microsoft
If
did a
you know,
number
you
on
know.
us. Yeah. Anyway,
Right. But yeah, man, so it's like even then, like when I went back to school, they got my which I got to get my certification in music business administration. At that point, I already had my degree in electronic media. So it's like from there, it was just continuously going, finding my path and making it make sense. You know what I'm saying? So I always tell people, learn to be a resource. It's like when I moved back to the Kentucky marketplace, I initially
that's
did
yeah, yeah.
photography. Photography was one of the things that really got me back in the market space with people I weren't familiar with. But through photography, I always spoke about music business because I was literally graduated with my certification in music business at that time. So 5 years from then till now, I have a very wide gambit and a very strong relationship with a lot of different people simply because all I did was talk about music business. So they're like, hey, go get Theo. Hey, go ask Theo this question. Hey, this is the type of stuff he talks about all the time. When it's a matter of information, you have to be a resource. Having defined skill sets are an amazing thing and it's an opportunity to get you paid. But so many artists go into this thing focused solely on their skill set, not focused on professionalism, not focused on the business, not focused on where the actual money is going and coming from. Sign a contract because you're not familiar with contracts. What you're familiar with is the dream that they're putting in your hands and the fact that you can go in the studio and go do your thing and they're going to pay for it. That's all you hear. So in that situation, now you get messed up. But if you become that resource person, or at least find people or put people around you who can be that resource, who can feed into you and you feed back into them, you know what I'm saying, create that balancing point. Now you'll find yourself in situations where you're less likely to get screwed over. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, you have that level of professionalism, you have your skill set, and now you're a resource person. So you're learning the business at a very accelerated rate. Rather, if it's, hey, what is this thing with regards to copyright? What is this thing with regards to technology? What are these tech companies doing with regards to copyright and the whole circumstance of either they do have a licensing or they do not have a music license? Rather it be through, hey, PRO or through one of these big behind labels that may or may not decide to give them what they want. All these different circumstances of how you're getting paid all comes down to the fact that you have to go get an education. Doesn't mean you have to go to college. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It doesn't have to be the traditional path, man. Pick up a book. If you are an avid reader, there's plenty of books. If you're like, I don't know who to read it, man, start pulling up credentials. Like I just told a guy the other day who was asking about sync. I was like, listen, you're telling me that from a financial standpoint, you're not the quote unquote, as people perceive, drug dealer rappers who happen to have all these budgets, have all these monies. And I'm like, these people have budgets because they put their life on the line. So we really don't have an excuse. They risking to go to jail we can go risk and go pick up a job doing something else beyond rapping and get that money. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I tell people at the end of the day, find things like Clubhouse. When Clubhouse came out, it was an app that nothing else was doing in the capacity that it was doing. An audio-based system that people like to come and talk. And then the beauty about how it was beneficial to the music industry beyond just the people who are there talking is the fact that the descriptor information you could search. Hit that spotlight music supervisor. All of a sudden, 300 different quote unquote music supervisors come up. What do you need to do? Look at every one of them and just start cross-referencing their stuff. Go on Google, see if you can search the name, see if anything pops up. Go on Jaxter, go on whatever site you can find that correlates, backsites. Check what they call Google authority on back pages. Again, resources. Verify who these people say they are, and then as simple as it is, DM or hit them in the inbox. But have something that's going to be beneficial. Like I tell artists, there's I think it's, if I remember correctly, I think it's disco.ae, if I remember correctly. You know what I'm saying? It was a site where they can basically load metadata in for records that they have that they want to send out for synchronization. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, go find those tools when you don't have that budget that are going to give you a low overhead, but allow you to move like you got $1 million budget. You don't have a manager, go find a system that'll allow you to plug that information in so you can book your own tour. Because you can basically say, hey, this is my schedule. You just got to be a resource. That's what it really comes down to, because you have artists in the game who have never touched a classroom outside of high school. But like you said, they learned professionalism. They learned how to hustle differently. And they learned how to network on different levels. Beyond just meeting people in the industry, they learned how to build that fan base. Because that fan base, aka exposure, is what got them where they are when it came to coming into that business room and saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is why I can make you money. People forget labels are quite literally banks. They're investment firms. They are money bags. That's what they do. Find things, invest in it. Same thing with these investment firms are doing into these tech companies. Find it, validate. That is what they say. Oh, okay, yeah, I can make money off of this. Here's such and such. Let me buy you out. Somebody just became a new millionaire. Somebody just became a new billionaire. What we were just talking about earlier, how Cobalt just sold out. You know what I'm saying? The Francisco, they said they just became a majority share. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy what's happening, but you have to become a resource. That is a big thing.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying the past 10 years, which is how are the hustlers outperforming the talented? It's really what it is.
That Mamba mentality.
No, but that's what a hustler is. He or she is a person that's very resourceful, and that's what it really comes down to. Like I said before, the whole situation with that artist and United Masters, it's because that's years of me developing a skill set, and you guys can do the same thing as well. But anyway, that is it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Man, the chat went nuts. Goodness gracious. I was trying to direct it to how artists can navigate, but we got into the Afrobeat stuff, so I'm gonna have to retitle this episode. But we definitely appreciate the love. What I want to do now is actually I want to play a song. Can I play a song, sir?
Let's make it happen.
All right, bet. So for you guys, if you guys don't know, I have been working with an artist, been working with a whole bunch of people out in South Africa. There's this producer / artist I've been working with who helped us in the last writing camp. He goes by the name of 1,000 Beats, aka Desh. And this is the first ever Room 3A collaboration remix between us and Desh. And this is, pull this up. Hold on, give me a second. Hold on. I hate when I do that. Just listen. It's Gotta Move remix, Room 3 to remix right here.
She you want to talk. Now you want to say you want to talk. Now you want to say you want to talk.
Sir. That is the 1,000 Beats from Dre collaboration. Yes, sir. All we have in South Africa. Shout out to Dre. Shout out to 1,000 Beats. Shout out to the whole South African team. We got much more on the way. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in. Much love. Take care. Take care of yourself,
That's what you
man.
call that fire. Room 380 fire.
Yes, sir.
Sheesh.
We not playing with y'all, man. Not this year, not the next, and not the one after that, man. Like I said, I found my niche. I appreciate every single person tuning in today. Much love. Peace.